I like Pokemon challenge videos, whether it be Johnstone trying to complete a game's Pokedex in 24 hours, Whoopsire playing through a game with segmented rules by his friends, or Into the Unknown trying to complete the games with Ash's exact teams. I like seeing these weird ways to play these games. But one I've only seen maybe a couple of is people trying to complete the games using only one specific type. So my goal is to go through Fire Red using only one typing at a time to see which one is the easiest. And I'm starting with the grass type. Let me get this out of the way first. I realize I'm saying one type only, but I'm allowed dual typings. Why? Because otherwise I'd be running this entire game with just a fucking Tangela. As for the other rules, I'll be using some of what I tend to refer to as basic challenge rules. The rules you'll find in most challenge videos. Those being a set battle style, so I can't freely switch between my opponent's Pokemon, and no using items in battle, held or otherwise. Now, there are other common rules that I can't exactly follow. Normally, people match levels with their opponents. Over-leveling is a necessity in this challenge. There is absolutely no way I'm making it through certain battles without being at least a bit over-leveled. It also sort of ties into the fact that I'm going to be running into some battles with a handicap. I will, where possible, max out at my opponent's number of Pokemon. However, early on especially, I'm not going to have access to enough, so I'm going to have to do certain battles with less Pokemon than my opponent. The only exception to that will be the Elite Four, since I do want to do that as one run. Don't worry, I fucked that up. So while they all have 5 Pokemon, I'll be using 6, as that's how many the rival has in a champion battle. By the way, I'll be bouncing back and forth between calling him the rival, Gary, and Blue. Same person. Now if there's not enough Pokemon of the needed type in the game, I just add them in. For example, in the Kanto Pokedex there are 6 fully evolved Grass-type Pokemon. But Bellsprout is exclusive to Leaf Green. So what do? Simple. Just fucking add a Bellsprout somewhere it would normally be in Leaf Green, at the level it would normally be in Leaf Green. And the final rule is, no HM slaves. Unless absolutely necessary. Yeah, it seems like a bit of a weird caveat, but obviously I'll need an HM slave when I do this with fire types only, because, no fire type Pokemon can learn Surf, and Surf is kinda necessary to get through these games. But if I have another option, in this case adding a Lotad which can learn Surf and still fits the typing, then I have to do that. If I bring it in though, it has to be involved in more than one major battle. I can't just bring in a Lotad for Surf and use it against Blaine, then just buy Lotad into the box. It has to be used against multiple opponents. Now with all that out of the way, let's finally get into this. We begin our journey by doing what I always do, forgetting about the potion in the PC. Seriously, I never remember that thing. Thankfully, we don't need it at the moment, so we can freely leave Pallet Town. Or we could if Professor Oak didn't think we'd be viciously mauled by all the Rattata and Pidgey on Route 1. Route? I never know how to pronounce that fucking word. We attempt to leave the lab, but Gary learns the power of locking us in place from his grandfather, so we're stuck in a battle. Not much to say here. We just use Growl until Charmander is only doing 2 HP worth of damage, and then hit him with our superior tackle until he goes down. Now after this, we go through the whole thing of getting Oak's Parcel and getting the Pokedex, meaning we can catch Pokemon. Except we can't because there's no grass-type Pokemon here. So we go on to our next rival battle on Route 22, where Gary now has 2 Pokemon, each with super effective moves against our 1. The only difference since the last battle is that Bulbasaur is now at level 9 and has added Leech Seed to his moveset. We immediately set up a Leech Seed on Pidgey and get to tackling. After Pidgey lowers our accuracy with Sand Attack, we use Growl, and for some reason that's literally all my notes say. I use Growl because of the lowered accuracy? Anyway, we finish Pidgey off with Tackle, and Blue sends out his Charmander. Once again, we immediately set up a Leech Seed, then start growling. Once Charmander's doing less damage than we're second back, we switch to Tackle and finish this battle off on our first attempt. At the end of the battle, Bulbasaur levels up to 10 and learns Fire Whip, so we now have a super effective attack against Brock. Also, did it seem weird to anyone that Gary at no point called for Ember? Like, at least with Gust, it still would have been weakened from Growl even though it was super effective, but Growler was physical attack. Ember uses special attack and is super effective. If he had a call for Ember once, that whole plan would have just gone out the window. Anyway, moving on. I didn't want to be too over-leveled for our first gym battle, so I ran from any wild Pokemon in Viridian Forest, but I still battled all the trainers in there, meaning we're going in with Bulbasaur at level 14, which is a bit higher than I would have wanted. His moveset is exactly the same as where it was at the end of the last battle. I didn't expect this battle to be too hard. I also didn't expect it to be this easy. One Vine Whip is enough to take out Geodude, and Bulbasaur learns Poison Powder in the process. Also at this point my sister came in to say something to me and distracted me, making it really hard to not learn Sleep Powder. Onyx comes in and gets off Vine, but again, one Vine Whip is enough to take him out, and just like that, we have the Boulder Badge. Brock also gives us a TM for Rock Tomb, which would be useful if any potential team members could actually learn it. The next thing of note to happen is that in literally the first battle after leaving Pewter City, Bulbasaur levels up and evolves into Ivysaur. Our starter is evolved, and we haven't even caught our second Pokemon yet. We should probably get around to that. In Mount Moon, we come across a Paris, and the Bug Grass type is the first new addition to our team. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys something. This is actually my second time attempting this challenge. The first time was months ago, and yeah, I didn't make it very far. I sort of tried to rush through, and honestly, the hardest part was trying to level up Paris and Parasect. So I was not looking forward to this. But this time around, now that I'm a bit more serious, well, you'll see, but for now, on to Misty.
I decided to do the Cerulean Gym Leader before doing the next rival battle, as she only has 2 Pokemon, which is exactly as many as we have. Going into this one, I actually tried to stick close to Misty's levels, so Paris is at level 19 with Scratch, Stun Spore, Leech Life, and Bullet Seed. She knew the first 2 moves when she was caught, and eventually learnt Leech Life by level up, while Bullet Seed came from TM that you find in Mount Moon. Now while that does mean she has 2 stab moves, neither of them are really good. Ivysaur is now at level 23 and has replaced Vine Whip with Razor Leaf. At the start of the battle we send out Paris and Misty sends out Staryu. Misty immediately goes for Harden and we respond with Bullet Seed. The first shot is actually a crit, and the following 2 get Staryu down to about 1/4 health remaining. Staryu's next move is Water Pulse, which doesn't do much to Paris but does leave her confused. However, she manages to break through the confusion and fire off 2 more shots of Bullet Seed to take Staryu down. Starmie is in next for Ash's first traveling companion, and we decide to use Starmie's partial psychic typing to our advantage by calling for Leech Life. Before it can hit though, Starmie gets off a Swift which takes Paris down to just under half health, but she gets hurt in confusion and goes down to a quarter. Starmie then gets off a Water Pulse which is enough to take Paris down, and now we're in a one-on-one. We send out Ivysaur, but Starmie is still faster and gets off another Swift. We then use Razor Leaf, which leaves Starmie deep in red health. Knowing a Super Potion is coming and not sure if we just got a low roll, we fire off a Leech Seed to sap a small amount of health from Starmie to ensure the next hit of Razor Leaf can finish the job. The Leech Seed was probably unnecessary though. The Super Potion didn't even get Starmie back to full health, and just like that, we now have the Cascade badge. After healing up, we start to do a small amount of training before realizing our team is actually probably at a decent enough level to take on Blue now. Pidgeotto opens with Sand Attack, which causes our first attempt at Sun Spore to miss. A second Sand Attack can't stop Paris from getting off a scratch though. A third Sand Attack still doesn't hamper us as another scratch gets Pidgeotto down to half health. Once again, Pidgeotto uses Sand Attack and this time Scratch misses. Pidgeotto then uses Gust, but the 4 times effective hit isn't enough to take Paris down, which is shocking to me. I mean, it's not like she's EV trained in defense. All the Pokemon on Route 4 where I trained her give attack or speed EVs. Anyway, in the time I was talking, Pidgeotto finishes Paris off with a Gust after Paris missed another scratch. Ivysaur starts off with a tackle that takes Pidgeotto down to a quarter health, and a Sand Attack can't stop a second tackle from knocking Pidgeotto out. What those Sand Attacks could stop though was Ivysaur getting off a Leech Seed on Charmander. Twice in a row, Charmander is able to get off Ember while Ivysaur misses with Leech Seed. Finally, we switch to tackle, but it's nowhere near enough. A second tackle misses and Ivysaur falls to Ember while Charmander is still in green health. Our first loss of the playthrough.
Now, this is one of the few instances where I went in without save stating beforehand and loading back into it. Don't worry, from here on out, in almost all cases, if I lose a battle, I'll just reload to the point I was at before I started it. But in this case, my last save state was before Misty, and yeah. That said, in hindsight, I think I know what the problem was.
Gary sends out Pidgeotto again, and this time we open with Ivysaur. The Grass Poison type immediately gets off a Leech Seed while Pidgeotto uses Sand Attack. Our first attempt at tackle misses, and another Sand Attack once again lowers Ivysaur's accuracy. Thanks to Leech Seed though, Pidgeotto still loses health, and now we try to stall. We call for Poison Powder, which hits, and Pidgeotto responds with yet another Sand Attack. Now though, Pidgeotto is getting hurt by 2 things every turn. A tackle goes critical, and Pidgeotto faints. Our rival sends out Charmander next, and now we're in a little bit of a predicament. If I switch out to Paris, she will definitely get OHKO'd by a 4 times effective Ember, but Ivysaur's accuracy has been reduced by 3 stages. We decide to keep Ivysaur in, who misses with a tackle and gets hit with Ember. We then go for a Leech Seed as a second Ember takes Ivysaur just above half health. Leech Seed takes a little back, but a Poison Powder misses and Charmander hits with another Ember. We finally get off the tackle as Charmander gets off one more Ember, and our next tackle is enough to take out Blue's starter. Once Abra comes out, it's safe to switch into Paris because Abra's only move is Teleport. We hit with Leech Seed, which despite being pre-boost is still more than enough to one-shot Abra. Rattata is out last for our rival as he begins with a Tail Whip, and we respond with Leech Life. Rattata hits with Tackle, but another Leech Life gets back some of that missing HP. Rattata uses Tail Whip once more as Paris finishes him off with Scratch. With that, we've beaten our rival again and we head off to see Bill.
Now, of course, there's a few orders of business before we see the Pokemaniac. One of which is, of course, Nugget Bridge, and my god, Paris swept it. At Paris up front to get some levels, and she still swept all 5 trainers. I only had to go to the Pokemon Center once because Paris got poisoned in the last battle. Unfortunately, she couldn't last against the Rocket Grunt at the end, but still, what a performance from what in my last attempt was a pain in the arse. By the way, do you get the feeling they wanted me to do that before challenging Misty? Anyway, after crossing the bridge, we add an Oddish to our team, as well as a Bellsprout, who decided to branch out and stop being exclusive to Leaf Green. Fuck it stays in like that. I don't care if I almost fucked up the word exclusive. Also, it was only at this point that I realized I should probably be showing movesets when I actually catch the Pokemon, so you know what moves are getting replaced. So, Bellsprout is at level 14 with Vine Whip, Growth, and Wrap, and Oddish is also at level 14 with Absorb, Sweet Scent, and Poison Powder. Then we head towards Bill's house, and I gotta tell ya, I was really tempted to try and have Paris sweep all the trainers there. Unfortunately, I decided against it to level up my new party members. Now, I do go into these battles with level goals, and my main one for this next battle is basically just to have all of my Pokemon except Ivysaur evolve. The levels themselves don't matter as much. So while battling a bug catcher on the way to Vermilion City, Bellsprout evolves into a Weeping Bell. Then after battling a sailor on board the SSN, Oddish evolves into Gloom. Finally, in one of the cabins, I spoil Paris's moveset changes while evolving her into Parasect. Going into our next rival battle, our team looks like this. Weepinbell is at level 21, having added Sleep Powder to his moveset. Ivysaur is at level 27 with the same moves as before. Gloom is at level 22, having learned Stun Spore. And finally, Parasect is at level 24, with Scratch being replaced by the Dig TM we got in Cerulean City. This was a bit of a hard one to decide who to start with. The only obvious option was not to use Parasect against Pidgeotto, and to save her for Charmeleon. We decide to lead off with Weepinbell, who puts Pidgeotto to sleep before setting up with Growth. Pidgeotto only spends one turn of sleep, however, before hitting with Gust, while Weepinbell uses a second turn of Growth. Another Gust puts Weepinbell into red health, and even with the special attack buff, Vine Whip does very little damage. A quick attack takes Weepinbell out, and we switch out to Gloom. A critical hit on Gust takes away more than half of Gloom's HP, but Gloom manages to get off a Poison Powder. Another Gust just isn't enough to take Gloom down, but the retaliatory Absorb is still weak against the Flying type. One more Gust takes Gloom down, and suddenly we're in a 2-on-4. We send out Ivysaur next, and although it's not very effective, one Razor Leaf is enough to take Pidgeotto down. Kadabra comes in next and immediately goes for Disable. That fails, but Ivysaur also fails to get off a Leech Seed. Kadabra then uses Kinesis, and the lowered accuracy makes it even harder for Ivysaur to get the Leech Seed off. Kadabra's Confusion then takes away about a third of Ivysaur's HP, but the Razor Leaf he fires back is more than enough to take Kadabra down in one. Charmeleon is up next for our rival, as Ivysaur once again fails to get off a Leech Seed. After an Ember, Ivysaur also misses with Poison Powder, which just gives Charmeleon another free hit of Ember. Finally, Ivysaur manages to hit a Razor Leaf, which takes Charmeleon down to half health, but the return Ember takes Ivysaur out. He has made Parasect's job so much easier though. Charmeleon does get off an Ember, which does a lot of damage, but as Parasect is underground, Charmeleon can't hit her with a second Ember. Parasect's super effective dig hits and takes Charmeleon down. Raticate is out next, who hits a Hyper Fang, and although Parasect does live through Hyper Fang, we know a quick attack is coming next, and even with paralysis, it unnecessarily crits, and Parasect goes down. Attempt number 2 starts off the same way the first one did. Sleep Powder and Growth. This time though we also Wrap to get in extra damage each turn. Another difference is that Pidgeotto actually stays asleep this time, meaning we get off a couple of Growths before Pidgeotto wakes up and hits Gust, but a powered up Vine Whip takes Pidgeotto into yellow health. Another Vine Whip leaves Pidgeotto deep into red health, and Weepinbell manages to survive on 5 HP after another Gust. Unfortunately, that was the exact time that Pidgeotto was freed from Wrap, meaning the last bit of health remained, and he could get off a quick attack on the next turn. We send in Gloom, and Pidgeotto's send attack isn't enough to stop Gloom's Absorb from wiping it out. Kadabra comes in next on our rival side, and before Gloom can get off and absorb, Kadabra disables it. Then Kadabra misses with Kinesis, and Gloom misses with Sweet Scent, meaning Gloom missed with an evasion lowering move after Kadabra missed with an accuracy lowering move. If that's not the definition of irony, then I need a better dictionary. Anyway, Confusion takes out over half of Gloom's HP before he gets off a Sweet Scent and falls to another Confusion. We send out Ivysaur, and after Kadabra misses with Kinesis, we one-shot with Razor Leaf. Charmeleon is out next, and we miss with a Poison Powder, but Charmeleon gets off a Smoke Screen. We get a critical hit on Razor Leaf, which takes out a third of Charmeleon's HP as he uses Smoke Screen again. It's not enough to stop another hit of Razor Leaf, which takes Charmeleon out. Once Raticate comes in, the lowered accuracy comes into play as Ivysaur keeps missing Razor Leaves. Raticate uses one Hyper Fang, then keeps using Tail Whip. Before he can get off another Hyper Fang with Ivysaur's massively lowered defense though, we finally hit a Razor Leaf, which is enough for a one-shot. The whole plan going in was to use Parasec's Dig to take out Charmeleon, and in the end we didn't even need her. Next up is Lieutenant Surge, and for the first time this playthrough we have to bench one of our Pokemon. Going into this, the only difference in movesets is that Gloom has replaced Sweet Scent with Cut, because Cut is necessary to get into Surge's gym, and otherwise Gloom's only offensive move was Absorb. Now I made a slight mistake, but I had no interest in going back to fix it. My plan had been to open with Gloom to not make things too easy. Unfortunately, I didn't realize until I started the battle that I forgot to switch Gloom up front, meaning I opened with Parasect. Voltorb gets off Sonic Boom, but one hit from Dig takes the living Pokeball down. Pikachu's out next, and despite using Double Team twice, he can't avoid Dig, also going down in one. Raichu's out last, but he's a bit more durable, surviving in red health. Unfortunately, once Dig hits, Raichu's static paralyzes Parasect. Surge uses a Super Potion, and since there's double the chance of paralysis stopping Dig from hitting, we switch to Bullet Seed. Raichu's double teams from earlier pay off though, causing Bullet Seed to miss. On the next turn, Raichu decides to again use double team, but this time Bullet Seed hits. 3 shots get Raichu around a quarter health, and that is definitely not enough. A Shockwave doesn't do much damage, but paralysis prevents us from using Leech Life. Another Shockwave gets Parasect into yellow health, as this time Leech Life misses. Once again, Raichu's use of an evasion raising move somehow causes our attack to finally land, as Leech Life gives back 7 HP. Another Shockwave, and this time Leech Life gives us 6 HP. Once again though, that's not enough, and so we bite the bullet and attempt to dig. The Raichu gets off a Shockwave that leaves Parasect at 17 HP. We manage to break through paralysis, landing an unnecessary crit on Dig, and now the Thunder Badge fills the third slot in our case.
Once again, we're going in with less Pokemon than our opponent. To start us off, Weepinbell is at level 25, having replaced Sleep Powder with Acid. I hope you like this moveset because you're gonna be seeing it for a while. Gloom is at level 28, having also replaced a status move, in this case Stun Spore, with Acid. Ivysaur is at level 29 with the same moves as ever. And finally Parasect is at level 25, having replaced Bullet Seed with Thief. We start off with Weepinbell against Pidgeotto, and without Sleep Powder to stall it, we call for Acid. Pidgeotto's Gust hits first, taking out over half of Weepinbell's health, and a second Gust knocks him out. Gloom is out next on our side, and we call for Acid again. Once again, Gust hits first, but this one doesn't do as much damage. Another Gust takes Gloom into yellow health, and we call for Cut for some reason. Acid probably would have gotten the win, but Pidgeotto is a cunt and lives on 1 HP. Another Gust leaves Gloom on 9 HP, but Absorb takes us back to 10! We get exactly what I want now, as having one of our Grass Poison types out means that the part Psychic type Execute is out next for our rival. Not expecting to get our shot off first, we call for Cut, but Gloom outspeeds, and once again I'm left wishing I used Acid. The Pokemon that I've been well informed is infinitely better designed than any of the current unimaginative Pokemon hits back with Confusion, knocking Gloom out. We send in Parasect next, and for some reason calls for Leech Seed instead of Thief, causing Execute to live on 1 HP. Execute then misses with Hypnosis, and we finally hit with Thief. Of course, seeing the 4 times weakness waiting, Blue sends out Charmeleon. Though he gets off an Ember that leaves Parasect very low on health, we're able to get off a Dig. Unfortunately, it doesn't do enough, and Charmeleon is able to take Parasect out with another Ember. We send in Ivysaur, and after Ember takes out close to half his health, Blue's team once again displays their cuntiness and lives on very low health after a tackle. A Razor Leaf finishes the job, but Ivysaur is on very low health, and when Kadabra comes out, 1 Confusion is all it takes to beat us. We go in for a second attempt, and I really have no better plan than the last time. Once again, we start with Weepinbell against Pidgeotto, but this time Gary calls for Sand Attack and we call for Wrap. Then we redo the first turn of our first attempt right down to Gus doing the same amount of damage. This time, however, Acid lowers Pidgeotto's defense, and as all Poison type moves are physical in this generation, that makes things easier. Then Wrap does a little more damage before Weepinbell falls to Gust again. This time when we send out Gloom though, 1 Acid is enough to finish the job. Again, Execute comes out, and this time we actually think to use Acid. A missed Hypnosis and another shot of Acid later, and Execute is gone. Kadabra comes out next and calls for Disable, but we get off a Poison Powder. Kadabra's ability then fails, as Gloom's partial poison typing means it can't be poisoned. Kadabra then uses Kinesis, but it doesn't stop Gloom from hitting with Acid, taking Kadabra out. Charmeleon is out next, and a critical hit on Ember somehow doesn't take Gloom out, meaning we're able to get off a Poison Powder. Now, Parasect's job is easy. With the poison damage taken, Charmeleon doesn't have what it takes to live through Dig, leaving only Gyarados. Parasect is so low on health that the first shot of Thrash is more than enough to take her out, but Ivysaur is perfectly healthy. We set up with a Leech Seed, as Thrash only lasts 2 turns this time around, and Gyarados becomes confused. A combination of Razor Leaf, Leech Seed, and Confusion damage combined to give us the win. This one was bad. Attempt number 1 didn't go well, and attempt number 2 went even worse. There's little point to me explaining what happened in detail, so a quick breakdown is that in attempt number 1, the combined efforts of Parasect and Gloom take Victory Bell to low health before Hyper Potion fixes her up. By the time Victory Bell goes down, Parasect is fainted and Vileplume is paralyzed on 21 HP. Acid helps to take Tangela down, but Vileplume is in red health when Erika's own Vileplume comes out, making quick work of ours. She then paralyzes Ivysaur and uses Acid to take out our starter. On attempt number 2, we don't even make it past Victory Bell. Though Parasect and Victory Bell trade Stun Spores, a critical hit on Acid leaves the Venus Flygon trap in green health when Ivysaur comes out. Although Ivysaur gets Victory Bell down to yellow health, a Hyper Potion from the gym leader quickly remedies that. When Vileplume comes out on our side, Victory Bell paralyzes him, and I rage quit, restarting the game.
I was worried about overleveling, but now we've reached a point where I need to level up, especially Parasect. So I decided to level up inside the Team Rocket hideout by beating everybody. Except Giovanni. We're saving him for later.
For attempt number 3, we come in with a much higher level Parasect. After getting hit fairly hard by Acid, we call for Dig. Victory Bell then misses with a Poison Powder while our Thief doesn't do much, but does get Victory Bell down to around half health. Another Acid leaves Parasect at 22 HP with lowered defenses, and we fire back with a Stun Spore. A couple of Leech Lights get Victory Bell into red health while she's completely unable to move. By the time she does get a hit off, Parasect is back into the green. Unfortunately, Victory Bell gets another shot off and Parasect faints. We send in Ivysaur to tackle away, and though he gets Victory Bell down, he's not in the best shape afterward, being paralyzed though not missing much HP. Tangela's out next, and after she calls for a grain, we call for Poison Powder. My finger then slips as I accidentally call for Poison Powder again, but it works out as Erika uses full heal. So of course Poison Powder misses this time. We get off another Poison Powder, and any health Tangela regains is instantly taken away. Tangela then uses Giga Drain, taking a monstrous 3 HP, while we retaliate with Tackle. Tangela eventually goes for Constrict as we just keep on tackling. Ivysaur's speed falls on Tangela's last tackle, but as he's paralyzed anyway, that doesn't do much. Poison Powder takes out the last of Tangela's HP, and now it's a 2-on-1. Barplume comes out, and with neither Pokemon having moves that can do all that much damage, we just keep using Razor Leaf until Barplume's Acid takes Ivysaur out, and we go to another Barplume on Barplume battle. We stall on calling for Cut before deciding to use Acid instead. A second hit of Acid leaves Erika's Barplume on 1 HP, meaning that the next hit of Acid takes her out and wins this battle for us. Then, at the end of the battle, Ivysaur evolves into Venusaur.
Now, imagine you're Giovanni, the leader of Team Rocket. You set up this underground hideout with your own personal security right outside your room. It's under your casino. Then, suddenly, one day, some kid breaks into your hideout. He defeats all your lackeys, he takes out your security. That causes your door to open for some reason, and he looks you dead in the eye. And he fucks off to fight the gym leader. How fucking confused are you? So, yeah, I feel like when I walk back in, Giovanni's first thought is, well, you took your fucking time!
We're doing this battle pretty much straight after beating Erika, so there's nothing much to report. We send out Parasect and Giovanni sends out Onyx. Onyx uses Harden, which does help protect him from Dig. He fires back with a Rock Throw as we go for another Dig. Another Harden once again weakens Dig's power, and another Rock Throw takes Parasect just below half health. Rather than going for Harden while we're underground again, Onyx instead uses Rage. It of course misses, but the second one hits, though Onyx's Rage hasn't built up, so it's still a pretty weak hit. Onyx goes for one last Rock Throw while we're underground, and we knock him out with another Dig. Rhyhorn's in next for the guy who couldn't possibly be Vermilion City's gym leader, and our first Dig cuts away half of his HP while our second Dig knocks him out. When Kangaskhan comes in though, there is no more ground type weakness, so one Mega Punch takes Parasect out. Venusaur comes in and sets up a Leech Seed, but a critical hit on Bite does very little damage. We continue our normal stall strategy, setting up with Poison Powder. A Razor Leaf gets Kangaskhan down to yellow health, and the combination of Leech Seed and Poison Powder take her into red. One final Razor Leaf is enough, and we win the battle, getting the Silph Scope so we can continue our journey.
And that Silph Scope, helping us get through Lavender Tower, that will come in handy for this next battle, believe it or not.
For our 6th rival battle, we set the level goal of roughly being in the high 30s. So for this battle, Vileplume is at level 37 with the same moves as before, Venusaur is at level 39, also with no new moves, Weepinbell is level 40, once again with no new moves to report. And then there's Parasect. At level 38 I decided to use a few TMs I had, as well as one move learned by Level Up. That one Level Up move is Slash, which has replaced Thief, and with the help of TMs, Aerial Ace has replaced Leech Life, and Giga Drain has replaced Stun Spore. My notes do say that I hadn't used Stun Spore in ages, but it's only now that I'm realizing how wrong that is, since we used Stun Spore against Erika, but my other reason still stands, and that's that Parasect's Effect Spore ability can cause paralysis anyway. Pidgeot vs Vileplume is how this one starts, and a wing attack does serious damage while Vileplume responds with Poison Powder. Another wing attack gets the Giant Flower into yellow health, and Acid gets the Giant Bird down to half. We send out Weepinbell next and use Wrap after wing attack takes out most of Weepinbell's HP. Knowing that Pidgeot will faint no matter what, our replacement once Weepinbell faints is Venusaur, specifically to bait out Execute with Venusaur's partial poison typing. That works out as the Grass Psychic type comes out next and we switch out to Parasect. Unfortunately, Execute uses Sleep Powder rather than Confusion, so we can't get off an aerial ace on our next turn. The eggs then do use confusion for the next few turns as Parasect enjoys some beauty sleep. By the time she wakes up, she's so disoriented that her aerial ace turns back and gets herself instead. One more hit of confusion leaves Parasect deep into red health, but she snaps out of confusion, getting off an aerial ace that takes out half of Egg's HP. We still have Venusaur though, but Tackle doesn't do enough. Stun Spore and Confusion don't quite take Venusaur out of it though, as Razor Leaf scrambles Execute. After Alakazam comes out, Paralysis largely stops Venusaur from attacking until one Razor Leaf takes Gen 1's most unbeatable Pokemon down. Charizard then comes out as Venusaur takes a Future Sight and a Flamethrower, and we lose this battle.
I decided to hold off on redoing this one. Remember how I said that clearing Lavender Tower would help us with this battle? Well, this is it. See, by clearing Lavender Tower, we get the Pokeflute. With the Pokeflute, we can get the Snorlax's blocking Cycling Road out of the way. And from there, we can just cycle down to Fuchsia City, go into the Safari Zone, and get some eggs of our own.